Welcome back. Well, 937,000 tourists visited South Africa during December 2013. That's the highest ever recorded number of tourists in the country in any one month. That's according to the Tourism and Migration Survey released by Statistics South Africa yesterday. It's based on data from Home Affairs on all local and foreign travellers who passed through the country's air, land and sea ports of entry last year. Well, let's talk about this some more now. I'm joined by Statistician General Pali Lehohla. He is in our Pretoria studio. Pali, thank you very much for joining us on Morning News today. Let's talk about this figure. It's quite a high number. Explain to us what that actually means when we say the highest ever number of tourists in one month. And this being December, is it unusual?
Yes, indeed. I mean, since 2012, the number of tourists coming to South Africa has been increasing steadily. But the rise in 2013 was the biggest jump and marking the highest number for the month of December. The year-on-year change was difference was about 13%, and that was the highest in December. The mode of, or rather why tourists come to South Africa, or the type of tourists that come to South Africa, in the majority are people who come for leisure, and that accounts for about 85%. Those who come are on transit, about 13%. Those who come for study, about 2%. Business constitutes about 6% of tourists that come to South Africa from foreign countries.
Did the survey manage to establish why we've had this increase, or what it was specifically about December last year that drew these numbers?
It's very difficult to know. We didn't ask, but the numbers came in that fashion. And anyway, there has been a steady increase in the number of tourists since 2010, from 2010 up to now. But there was a biggest jump in December 2013.
Were you able to establish whether these were tourists who've come from abroad, those within Africa? Where did most of our visitors actually come from?
Could you come again? It's a little bit too soft, I can't hear.
Okay. Were you able to establish where most of these visitors were actually from? Were they from the rest of Africa? Did we see more coming from the US? Did we see them from Europe? Any idea?
Oh, I see. Well, I mean, the majority of, or rather, let me say, they are foreign travelers, and they are travelers from abroad, overseas, and they are travelers from the SADC region. In terms of travelers from overseas, the UK still leads the pack, followed by the United States, and Sweden is the smallest coming to South Africa. We see the Chinese actually coming up there as well, and the Germans are third largest number of travelers to South Africa. The SADC, that is led by Zimbabwe and then Lesotho. And then a splattering of others towards the tail. The biggest outside SADC in Africa, on the continent, it's Nigeria that has the largest number of tourists.
Now, I'm sure most of the cities, Pali, are waiting to hear if they had the most number of these visitors, if they attracted. Where did we see most of these visitors going to? Which were the most popular areas in South Africa in that time?
In that kind of survey, we only know that they have crossed and come into South Africa. Rather, from that administrative record, we just know that they came into South Africa. But the usual big spots are Johannesburg and Cape Town. Then how people then, having arrived where they go, that we do not know. I mean, South Africa has 53 borders, and all those ports have been used as entry points by tourists.
Let's talk about those migration figures now. And this is not just people who are coming on holiday, Pali. Have we seen an increase or a decrease in those coming to South Africa, given that we've had sporadic incidents of xenophobia? We've seen possible signs of that flaring up in certain areas again.
No, I don't think there is any change in tempo of people who come to South Africa. For instance, we do know that there were these xenophobic, or at least attacks in around 2006, 2007. We also know that a number of South Africa and Zimbabwe came to an agreement that Zimbabweans would be accorded the opportunity to get documents for South Africa, and that number of about 400,000 has still remained that way in that time, and when we counted in 2011. Which attests to the integrity of, first, the numbers, as well as the fact that people who are foreign nationals still are in South Africa. I mean, I wouldn't like to say despite there's xenophobic attacks, but I think the relations in relation to that in South Africa have normalized.
Well, let's hope for a better 2014 then, tourist-wise. Thank you very much, Statistician General Pali Lehohla.
Know more about your world.
enCA.com.